So you're back with the church guy and the addict. I'm Don, and I'm the church guy.
I'm Danny, and I'm the addict. Welcome.
Hey, Danny, how are you doing?
Awesome. And yourself?
Good, doing great.
So, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we've got a question here. Danny came into us via email. And as we keep saying all the time, if you have any questions for us, send them to the church guy and the addict at gmail.com. Questions for either Danny or myself or both of us, and we'll be happy to answer them and get the video up on YouTube. So are you ready for the question, Danny?
I'm always ready.
Okay, this question is from Wendy. And she says, "Hi, Danny and Don. I have been watching the church guy in the addict from day one, and I think you're doing an excellent job of helping people understand what addiction is all about. I have a question for both of you. Do you think an alcoholic can quit drinking and stay sober without attending AA meetings? Question mark. Keep up the good work, Wendy." So the question is, I think this is more of a question for you, Danny, but we'll chat about it. Do you think an alcoholic can quit drinking and stay sober without attending AA meetings?
Most definitely. I'm not a doctor, but first of all, I want to say thank you, Wendy, for your question. It's an awesome question. I think it's a great thing to talk about. Anyway, it's a great subject, but my feeling is yes, people can get sober and remain sober. And I'm not a doctor, so I don't want to hear your opinions or what have you. But this is what I've noticed through my own awareness of people who do not attend meetings, who actually are clean and sober. I find that they have heart issues. They have a lot of, um, the body's a unique thing. And I think the beautiful part of the program is because, we have God, we have the fellowship, and we have steps, and there's a lot of therapeutic value, I feel, in going to meetings and having sponsors and having giants that you can share your issues with. I believe it's like a volcano. Eventually a volcano erupts, and it's just like anybody. If they don't have a program or a fellowship or a connection with God, and just reflecting on the people in my life who I know are sober, but they have a lot of heart problems. They've had heart attacks or strokes, or they don't go to meetings, and I really feel that meetings are essential. It's a way of living. It's a way of looking at life. It's like if you're going to learn carpentry, then you go to carpentry school and someone walks you through how to be a carpenter. And I think, they talk about it in the first step. Alcohol is just a symptom of our problem. Our problem is living life on life's terms. That's a real problem, you know.
Mm. So you've opened up a can of worms here, Danny, to say that it's healthier medically to go to AA meetings, and you might suffer some effects, some ill effects if you don't attend meetings.
That's my opinion, and once again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't want you to write in and say, "Oh, this guy doesn't know. He doesn't have an MD and whatever." But there's so many advantages of attending meetings. If you have, like, if I don't, like, for instance, know how to fix a car, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where would I go to get my car fixed? To people who fix cars.
Right.
So if I have a substance abuse problem, and I think that's why 12-step programs work for people who want to work them, that is.
Right.
Meetings are not for everybody. If you're still in denial, meetings are not good for you. If you're not honest, or willing to be honest, or willing to expose yourself, or willing to be, like, when I walked in these rooms, Don, there was somebody there to shake my hand and show me how to live life on life's terms. So if everybody got sober and everybody went away, who would be there for the new guy? Who would have been there for me when I walked in through those doors those few years ago? You know?
Well, I mean, that's certainly a good argument for keeping meetings going, because you're right. There's always people at different stages. The guy who's just coming through the door is not going to have anybody there to greet them. But I think it must be also very encouraging for somebody who's brand new to AA to meet somebody like yourself who's got 17 years under their belt, and gives them some hope for the future, and that they can, acquire this life as well.
All right. But it's first of all, it's a day at a time.
Yeah.
And secondly, I know Wendy, and it's amazing when two people who are alcoholics or addicts talk. And Wendy and we have the most beautiful conversations. We know each other, and sometimes we finish each other's sentences, and we just have a blast when we talk on the phone, and because she lives afar, sorry. And so we don't get to see each other very much. But when we do, we connect because we have that same issue, we'll say,
Yeah.
And so we relate on so many different things in our lives. And, and when we do talk, and I'm sure for Wendy, and I'm not speaking for her, but it's like her having a meeting with me because we can share honestly, openly, when we don't hide nothing. We've talked that we don't have to hide our true selves. The things that our ego says. Well, I'll never tell anybody that. And we can share with each other. The times where where I went wrong in my life, maybe as a parent or vice versa. Or as a sibling,
What's interesting, Danny, is that I answered Wendy's email, and I said I know that for Danny, the A meetings are paramount. He thinks everybody needs the fellowship, and they need to continue going to meetings for a lifetime. So I kind of answered the question. And then, so I was surprised when you said people can get sober without meetings. But then again, you went further and sort of said they can, but they're probably more, in my opinion, what you just said is that you're more likely to stay clean and sober if you do attend meetings.
I do. And I think that's why church people hang with church people,
Right.
Alcoholics hang with
Commonality.
alcoholics, drug addicts hang with drug addicts,
Yeah.
Gamblers Anonymous, they hang around with people who are gambling anonymous,
Yeah. I have a question for you on top of Wendy's, which is the same subject. Is why, Danny, are some people so resistant to meetings? Like I can think of 3 people right now who are, one's an alcoholic, 2 drug addicts, who would say that meetings don't work for them, and that they won't darken the door of a meeting.
and a lot of that has to do with honesty, because there's how in AA, 3 words, and honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. That's the acronym for how. So there's a lot of people who just don't want to be honest. They don't really want it. They like to think of they're the great I am. I learned that word in the fellowship. I can't show anybody that I have problems, true problems. I want everyone to think that my life is so splendid. Look at that new car I have, and look at this new home I have, and look at this pretty wife I have, and look at. But deep down inside, they feel horrible. And you can only fill that stuff up with material stuff, and that only lasts so long. Like buying a new car, the smell in the car lasts for so long, that new car smell.
Yeah.
And open-mindedness, well, there's another topic right there. Someone is sharing something with you that you may or may not agree with, but that's okay. That's the greatest gift of the program. It comes in your time, right? And willingness. Like there's lots of work right now with this COVID. Everywhere I drive, it's looking for help, looking for help, looking for help. But yet you're hearing people say, well, there's no work. There's no,
Yeah.
I can't get a job. Well, you got to get out of your house, first of all, and you got to apply to positions, and you got to take that chance, and that's the other part of the program is there's a lot of people that say, oh, it don't work for me. It don't work for me. But they're not willing to to follow, if you will, the guidelines on how to be a carpenter. That you're not going to, as a carpenter, you're not going to build this beautiful home the first time you go to carpentry school. They'll make you build a little stupid little box or something, right? And that's how you start. You got to start little.
Yeah.
And then eventually you become this great builder or carpenter, or you're going to build the beautiful cabinets or whatever. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people is, they attend a few meetings and they want their wife to come back. They want that new car and that beautiful house and everything, in a month, 30 days sober. And they want all this stuff all back. Well, it doesn't work that way. It takes a long time to screw your life up. And it's going to take a long time for you to get better. But you got to put in that time. It's like at work. You got to put in your 40 hours to get your 40-hour paycheck, right? You can't go to work 2 days and expect, to get that 40-hour paycheck. And that's what
there's a lot of people that will try that do want results without the effort.
Well, and that's the problem. And the thing too is if you're really honest with yourself and about the program, you see your true self. And sometimes people don't like what they see. And that's the greatest gift of this program is you could change that person that you used to be. So the greatest part here is you get a second chance at life is what I'm trying to say. And a second chance to look at life differently. Like today, it's raining. Yes, it's raining. But Don, I got the day off. It's a beautiful day, and it's what I make of my day. I could sit here and watch TV and twiddle my thumbs, or maybe I can read, go do some banking, go do some things that I normally don't have time to do. And I can do that today,
Right. Danny, one of the complaints I've heard from some people when they're being pitched on AA meetings is they say everybody's talking about their past. So all the speakers will get up and share what they, how much beer they've drank in their lifetime or how much drugs they've done in their lifetime. And they consider themselves forward thinking instead of review thinkers. What's your opinion on that?
Well, when someone shares their story, they talk about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. So if they pay attention, what it's like today, what the main part of that, Don, is, for instance, if I was a homeless guy, which I was, and I'm sitting there talking to you in a suit and tie and telling you how to get sober, and you're a new guy in AA, you're gonna look at me and say, what does this guy with the suit and tie know about being homeless? Well, what does he know? Look at him. He smells nice. He's got a nice suit. He came in a nice car. I saw him come in with his wife. She's a beautiful lady. Blah 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 blah. He doesn't know anything about addiction. So for him to understand that where I came from, I have to share what it was like before. And if you're in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous or an NA meeting or something, and I talk about cocaine, or I normally don't get drug specific and I don't get drink specific, but we're going to talk about drinking and we're going to talk about drugging. And God forbid if I say that word, if that causes someone to relapse, come on. Oh, did you just freeze on me again?
Yeah, you froze, but keep talking. We can hear you, Danny. Can you hear me? So that's not a valid excuse then, Danny, when people say, all you hear about is how much drugs people have used over the past, and that's why they don't go to meetings.
Yeah. And like I said, the main purpose of meetings is not to talk about what you used to do. It's what
Yeah.
a good speaker talks about how he recovered and the tools he used to recover. It's not what he did before. He just when he speaks about his past or she speaks about their past, they're just talking about qualifying. Because, like I said,
Right.
when the person is sharing their message, they look well groomed, if you will, and so, but you would look at the person and think, well, that person doesn't know anything about how bad it was, and meanwhile the guy was a skid row bum, or the person was a skid row bum.
Yeah. So I think bottom line is people will look for excuses and not to go to meetings.
Exactly.
And I think, I don't know when I heard you say this, but you once said that, meetings, the program, the 12 steps have helped many millions of people. But for the ones it hasn't helped, they're going to be critical of it.
Oh, of course. And
And
they'll say
they'll say it doesn't work.
those are the ones that are dying from this awful disease.
Right.
Those are the ones that are literally dying. And if not dying, then they're living in the misery of trying to get clean and sober, and they can't. And they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't. You got to forget everything you know, and you got to be taught by people who have walked the walk and talked the talk and lived the way you want to live. And basically, I think everybody wants to live happy, joyous, and free. They just want to be happy at the
Yeah.
end of the day, and if you're not willing to take direction, just like our devotion talked about this morning, is you got to be willing to learn.
Yeah.
Nobody gets to AA by accident.
No.
Or
So the
NA.
question, do you think an alcoholic can quit drinking and stay sober without attending AA meetings? Your answer is yes, they can, but they're way better off if they continue to go to meetings.
Oh, of course.
I mean, you're a pretty good example of that, Danny, over the years that I've known you, and then throughout your 17 years of sobriety, you continue to go to meetings. And I guess in my naivety, I would say, Danny, are you still going to meetings? You'd be like, of course. I mean, how many meetings do you go to, Danny, like in a week? Do you have a set number? How do you?
Well, because of COVID, of course, it's everything's different now. But I can go to online meetings and what have you. But let me throw this question to you. It's like, how many years have you been going to church, Don?
Yeah.
Is it once or twice good enough? yeah, like you obviously go to fill your cup, and to help others fill theirs too. You know what I mean? And that's basically what the program's about.
Well, it sounds to me like fellowship has a lot to do with that. I mean, the reason why people do go to church is because they find fellowship, commonality of faith, all those things, friendships that keep them coming back. And it sounds like an AA meeting, and I've been to a number of them, are kind of like a church service. Exactly. You have your coffee and your cake afterwards, and people are kibitzing around the door when you come in, and it's kind of like a fun time. And exactly. And also, I mean, to be supported by one another is a big thing. And commonality, you mentioned how you can call Wendy and have great discussions because you understand each other's language and you understand where you both come from.
Exactly. And for Wendy, and I know Wendy doesn't go to meetings, but it's for her, it's like her at a meeting, you know what I mean? So that's why we enjoy chatting with each other is because in her book and in my book, when two of us are together, we speak the same language.
Right.
So yeah.
So you're one alcoholic helping another.
Exactly. Radical. And she's got many more years than I do. Sober. Yeah, sober. But unfortunately, I'm pretty sure she's got some heart issues, and so when she watches.
So she's sober. She stayed sober by not going to meetings.
Yes, she's sober, but doesn't go to meetings. But you know what, though? Anytime that we talk to each other, we always talk about what it was like, what happened, and what our lives are like today, you know?
Right.
And so it's just like a meeting, only it's over the phone, you know? And I'm sure when Wendy watches it, she'll attest to it, the same thing, that, yeah, like when we chat, it's like going to a meeting. She feels, you know, that we're bonded in the brotherhood and sistership of the fellowship, you know?
Well, maybe what we'll have to do someday is get Wendy on one of her calls here, uh, and have her as a guest and find out how she's managed to stay clean and sober without meetings, and then we'll get the other side of it.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure she'll be willing to do something like that.
Yeah. So we're all out of time here again, Danny, but it's been great chatting with you again today, and look forward to seeing you again soon. And for everybody else, send your questions to thechurchguyandtheaddict@gmail.com, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Okay. God bless.
See you, Danny.
Peace.